all that old material now, we set that aside and we just start with nothing. I went into it with a clear head, I think, of knowing more of what I wanted to say. The first record was trying to figure out who I wanted to be, what I wanted to say, what I wanted my artistry to be. And then album 2 is like, okay, now how do we take that and really solidify it and then move forward?
Between the Grooves is hosted by James Curtis, music director and morning man in the Greater Toronto Area on Joy Radio, and Aisha Woods, Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, and musician. Together, they talk with artists and industry insiders to discover our connection between music and faith. You can connect with us on Facebook or Twitter at Between Grooves. Now, here's James and Aisha.
Episode 250. Can you believe that?
My goodness. How did we get here so fast?
We are almost into our 6th year of Between the Grooves. Yeah, time flies. But we've had a lot of great guests, and our guest this week is going to be just that. But I will say, just thinking about our episode from last week, surprisingly, no significant backlash from our last episode, so I still have a job.
There you go.
I have not been canceled. So, I was given my 2 cents worth, and, it seems these days you can be an expert on anything, no experience required.
This is true.
Right? Like with social media, you can take some quick online courses, whether they're certified or registered or whatever, and you can put that on your resume and make people think that you're qualified to talk about something. But, it's like taking marriage advice from a newlywed.
Or taking advice about children from someone who has one child.
Or no kids.
Right.
Yeah. So a little bit of sarcasm in our last episode. I will not apologize for that.
No apology necessary.
Just telling you the way I feel, So anyways, today, a very special guest. We had him on the podcast, I guess, about 3 years ago. And that was, I guess, just as the pandemic was getting started. A lot has changed in the world around us since. So we wanted to check back to see what's happening with Michael Cochren.
Whoop, whoop. Goatee Records in the house.
Sorry, I was on for a second. I disconnected. I was trying to make sure my microphone's working.
It sounds great.
Awesome. Is the volume okay? Is it a little loud? Or?
No, you're good. You're perfect. The first time I heard your music was when you did that collaboration with Toby Mac, and I loved it.
Oh, Edge of My Seat?
Yeah. It was just a great introduction to Cochren and Company. It really was.
Oh, man. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, that was fun to do. I think we did that. No, I guess that was before COVID. Yeah.
Yes. It was before COVID.
Okay.
In fact, I think it was before your first album, too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we had just put maybe one song out. I guess just one song out, and then we did that with him.
And what was that first song again?
It's called Church, Take Me Back.
Yeah, that's right. I was trying to remember. And that is you know what? Church, Take Me Back. You know what's great about that song is that your new album, which is out basically in a few days, the new album sounds like it's kind of got that style. It's got the pop, it's got the church vibe, it's got some soul,
some blues in there.
Yeah. It's like it's a mix of all of that, and so that's what the new album reminds me of, is that first song, Church, Take Me Back.
Oh, that's great, man. That's cool. Yeah, it definitely feels like a natural step forward. I think that we haven't abandoned anything that makes us us, but we've definitely explored some new avenues as well. So I'm pumped for that.
What was the writing process like for you guys with this project?
Long.
I hear you.
We put the first record was like, it feels like it was basically my whole life, my whole musical life, so to speak, like compiled into one record. It was like, this is where I've been for the first 25 whatever years of my life, is because a lot of those ideas and those songs, some of those were brand new, some of those were like, I started them years earlier or whatever. We came in with close to 100 songs that we just were working through and writing new music, and after signing a record deal and then meeting all these producers and stuff. And so it's very much like, it was a long time coming for that record. And this record, I basically started right after that one came out. I was like, hey guys, are you happy with this? Do I get to do another one? And they were like, yeah, we'll keep you around. And so I just immediately started writing for the new record. But it was different because now I felt like I was writing fresh, like new, like almost like all that old material now, we set that aside and we just start with nothing. And that was kind of cool because I went into it with a clear head, I think, of knowing more of what I wanted to say. The first record was trying to figure out who I wanted to be, what I wanted to say, what I wanted my artistry to be. And then album 2 is like, okay, now how do we take that and really solidify it and then move forward? And I think I was able to confidently go into those rights and say, I want to be transparent about this thing today. I want to talk about this. I want to meet people where they are here. And knowing what my voice is now, knowing what my writing voice is, how I want to communicate these things. And so the hard work felt like it was out of the way, and then it became just now what do I want to say, which was really cool.
And does your wife, is she part of that writing process as well, or are you the primary writer?
I'm definitely the primary writer. She is a great writer. She used to write a lot more, and then when she took, when we got married, she took a teaching position as a music teacher in public education. And so that was just a lot of music all day long. and so when she came home, when she come home from work, it was like, I think I've had my music, hit my music quota.
She's met her quota.
Yeah, that's right. And so she definitely has slowed down on writing. We did write a song a few years ago together. It was a Christmas song called Christmas With You. Just her and I wrote that together in our home, and it's still my favorite song I've ever written. I love it. So I'm hoping that now that she's not teaching, she's touring full time. I'm hoping that writing can begin to come back. But I definitely would be the primary writer at this time. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now you are also a worship pastor, correct?
I am. Yeah. I've been serving at the same church I'm going on my 11th year now, which is wild to think about. It's like a third of my life.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's great. It's just a small town church. We are just a close knit group of people, and I love it. We actually just led yesterday morning. We're going to be going on the tour for the next 9-10 weeks. So this is our last time to be at our home church for a while. And it was really sweet just to fellowship with everyone and hear everyone sing. And it's a special thing. I really think it contributes a lot to my writing. Over the years is just being in that role and rubbing elbows with real believers day in and day out, hearing their stories and what they're going through. And I think it just reminds me that it's all real. When you get on the road sometimes and you're out doing it and there's, there's other things attached to it,
yes.
It's very much a business. We love doing ministry on the road, but there's a business aspect to it, obviously.
Sure.
And we're all trying to make a living. And so sometimes it can begin to feel a little fabricated, and not on purpose. We all have great intentions and motives and stuff. But when you come back and you scale it down and you just come with a few hundred people in a church, and it's just like back to the basics, so to speak. It really reminds you, like, this is all real. What we're doing is real. Like, it matters. And it's not just a business. It's impacting people's lives. And I'll meet people on Sunday morning at the church, and they'll tell me, like, hey, we went and saw like Casting Crowns last night, or we went and saw like whatever. They're just fans of Christian music too, and so it's cool to realize, like, these are the people that we're all touching their lives. So I get to see behind the scenes of that, and it's really cool.
To a certain extent, I guess you get to do the same thing, Aisha, as a worship pastor or music pastor, and the fact that you still go out to various conferences and you're singing and whatnot, you kind of see it from both sides as well?
Right. Yeah, I definitely do. And the being at the church and having the opportunity to serve in this capacity, it's one of the things that helps to keep us grounded, when it's ministry, like full out, every bit of it is ministry. And it brings a really nice balance to it all.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like it's good for people to do things that nobody claps for.
Right.
I think that's healthy for us, to have that balance in life of, like, we just serve in this way and we serve in silence, and the only person that knows that we do it as Jesus, and that's really helpful.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I guess the other difference, too, for you, Michael, would be the fact that when you are leading in your own church, probably a lot of the songs you sing aren't necessarily songs that you've written. So
right.
But it's a different take, right? Because when you're on the road, it's all your stuff, your music, versus as a pastor in a church. I guess you could sing all your own stuff, but
no,
maybe not.
That would get weird real quick. You know, people ask a lot at my church, like, "Hey, when are we going to do that new song of yours?" And I've just always been like very intentional to not do that. Like,
right.
Maybe even more than what I should. I don't know, but we don't really do any of our music. I just don't want anybody to ever make a decision to come to our church because of that, you know?
Right, right.
Because I'll let them down. Like, you know, if they're coming for me, I will let them down eventually.
Sure.
But if they're coming for the truth that we're saying, and if they're coming for Christ, then, you know, they won't be let down by that.
Right.
Or
That's
people,
great to hear.
or people having the perception that you're trying to make some extra money singing your own song in church.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Hey, I'm trying to get that CCLI money.
Yeah.
You know, I just
it's
report
true.
every week.
It's true. I've seen it happen. So I mean,
Oh my God.
It's cringy.
Yeah, it is.
The last time we chatted, I guess it was about 3 years ago. That was just after the pandemic started, and we were chatting a little bit about funding your calling in music. And in conjunction with that, we were talking about adapting the business model when something unexpected hits. And of course, that's what hit was the pandemic. So we've come out of it. Is there now a shift as far as your business is concerned, as far as the music business for you is concerned? You've got a new album, but now, you know, touring is coming back. Are you kind of shifting again now to the way it used to be, or is it completely changed permanently?
Well, I mean, definitely a lot of things have changed, probably permanently, but more like mindset things. I think, and I see it. I think I see it across multiple tour enterprises. You're just like, you're more focused on guarding for the future a little bit, maybe, as far as like sustainability, and you know, if something were to happen, to be able to set yourself up to be able to still keep doing what God's called you to do, and you know, being prepared to cut back if you have to. I watched a lot of tours not be able to do that, and they didn't really have a reference point for scaling, and so it was either all or nothing. And a lot of tours lost money, or a lot of tours just didn't go out. But I also watched some camps be very successful in scaling back properly, realizing that, you know, you could still go out there and share the message and share the songs without the arena and without all the bells and whistles, and make an impact. It's just going to be a smaller check that comes in, but you're going to float, and you know, and you're still going to pay your people. But for us now, what's nice is, you know, we definitely scaled back in a lot of ways for a few years, and now that, you know, better opportunities are coming along with touring, I feel like we're in a place where we're able to invest in the business side, but like more like investing in expanding the brand, or expanding the vision. You know, there's cushion with where we're at, so we're trying to like, how can we capitalize with this marketing campaign, or how can we capitalize, like, you know, if we go and play here, and we really need to play there, maybe the money doesn't work out to go there, but we need to be there so we can afford to take a loss here because there's a gain over here.
Right.
That's kind of what we're trying to do now, is just expand and invest, just like a business would, like where you're trying to just, you know, maybe you want to put a new awning on your storefront, you know, like, now's the time where you can do that, whereas you couldn't do it for the past 3 years. So that's really what we're looking at right now.
In your band, in Cochren and Company, obviously you and your wife are full-time members of the band. Do you have any other full-time, I'll call them employees? Because, of course, that's an added expense, too. If things need to be ramped down, now you've got employees to worry about. And I've heard, you know, what a lot of bands have been doing now is just scaling down and bringing in the extra players, the extra musicians and singers when you know it's going to be a gig that can pay for that, versus taking a loss at the end.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a couple players that are with us throughout the whole year. We have a drummer and a guitar player, and that is something that we couldn't do for a couple of years. I played solo almost exclusively for 2 years, and then with Leah, my wife, coming out occasionally. But now, you know, we're out touring for the past year and a half, maybe almost 2 years now, and we have a tour manager and a guitar player that's out with us, and a drummer, and it definitely feels like a family on the road, and it's good to have consistency and have the same guys out.
Sure.
It begins to, I mean, some of the sonics and some of the writing on this record has definitely been influenced by the way that we sound live, and that's a direct result of having these players out. So it's when you invest in something like that, it does pay off.
It's funny.
Sure.
It's funny you say that this is the sound. This is what we sound like when we're live. A lot of times, you create an album, you create that sound in an album, and then it's like, okay, we're done recording. We're going to release
very different.
We're going to release the music, and now, okay, how do we mimic that sound? How do we make that same sound in a live environment?
Yeah, that is true, and I think I always try to be intentional about that, because I've been hoodwinked many times. Growing up, like, I buy the record, I'm like, man, I love these guys, and then I watch them on TV or I go see them live or something, and I'm like,
different.
What? Yeah, I'm like, what in the world happened between the studio and the show? Like, they,
right.
Man, like even the arrangements will just be all kinds of weird, and it's like, sometimes you just want to go out and you want to hear it like how you love it,
One of my favorite artists is Lauren Daigle, and my all-time favorite song right now, anyways, because that obviously can change, but one of my all-time favorite songs from her is Trust in You. And when the song first came out, there was this cool version of the song with kind of like a military beat to it. And so she came to Toronto with, I think it was Hillsong United. She came for a concert one night, and I went, and I was so looking forward to that song. And she sang that song, but it wasn't my version. And it was like, oh, what a letdown, you know? So, and there were different versions of it, but I was just really hoping that it was going to be that one, militant type, with the drums going and stuff. I was really hoping it was that version, and it was not, and I was so disappointed. Needless to say, that's the version we play on our radio station, because I haven't gone yet. So when I get to play that song during the morning show, it's like, yes, finally I get to hear my song. I can crank it out of the monitors. So
that's great. Yeah, it seems like artists do that, like, especially if it's been in the set list for a long time, or if it's an older song. It's like, almost for maybe for their own sanity, they have to spice it up, change it up, so they can keep it in the set.
Yeah,
keep it fresh for them,
Well, it drives me nuts when artists do that to their songs that they release to radio. So they'll release a version of the song, and I'll add the song, think it's a great song, I'll add it, and then like 2 weeks later, here's the same song featuring whatever artist, or a different version of the song where, now we've added more instruments, or, before it was a kind of a mellow song with no drums. Now we've added a drum version. It's like, make up your mind.
Yeah.
We're creative. It's hard to do that,
Yeah, but it's more work for me, because I get to keep swapping out the song with the new version, So I usually take the stance saying, okay, this is the song I added. I'm not going to add the new version of it, because then I'm just going to be continuously updating all the music all the time. And I think from the listener standpoint, they get confused. Like, but wait a minute, I thought this is the way the song sounded,
Yeah, that's fair. They say, like, what's that saying from painters where it's like, a painting's never done, you just stop. Something like that. I think, maybe that's how some people view their music. It's like, if you let me keep sitting with it, I'm going to keep changing it. So just take it out of my hands.
I think it's the record label's fault. I think it's they're the ones that initiate all that, but I could be wrong.
When in doubt, blame the labels.
Exactly.
Right. I'm all
Put
it on somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you guys do any worship in your set? Like when you're out? I mean, with being a worship pastor and not doing your original material in worship at the church, is it true? Is it the same when you're out? Do you do worship music?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that a lot of what we write is definitely a form of worship music, even if it doesn't, sound like the big church sound or whatever. But but we definitely do. We have some moments in our longer sets where we may slip in like a favorite congregational song that everybody knows.
Yes.
Like we've played Waymaker several times. We've played. I always love to go back to Great Are You Lord is one of my all time favorites.
Oh yeah.
Right now, one of my favorite songs to lead, just specifically in like congregational worship, is "Christ Be Magnified." I love that song. So sometimes
we did that yesterday.
That's a great song. Oh, so good.
Yeah, it is.
Michael, whenever you're on the road and you're doing a set and you've got that longer time to work with, do you ever throw in the song without telling the rest of the band and you just start singing it?
Oh, that happens a lot. Yeah, we make a set list and we print it out and we're all official, and then I change it like every night on the fly. And they usually just have to figure it out. A lot of times my wife is the one that's like firing any backing tracks and things like that. And so she can usually tell if I'm off the rails, and she'll just wait for me to either talk about the song a bit and then try to figure out what song it is I'm talking about to the audience, or I'll just look over at her, and I'll say, hey, this one. And then we have, when our click track fires, it tells us, say like, don't lose hope, 2, 3, 4. So the guys will at least have a 4 count, notice before we go into it. But there's a section in the show where I'm just playing solo on the piano, and that can get pretty fluid because the guys aren't in, they're not playing on those songs. I'm just kind of moving through things and telling some stories a little bit, and that usually is like whatever in the moment I'm feeling, and I might go to this song and share a snippet of this brand new song or something like that.
That's a sign of a good band if they can jump right in with you. Yeah,
they definitely have learned to hit the curveballs that I throw them. So
that's great. Do you now you just talked about playing the piano. I know you play guitar, you play drums. What other instruments do you play?
Well, I play guitar very minimally. I call it like worship leader guitar, like 4 chords in a capo.
Oh, I hear you.
But I do drums was my first instrument. yeah. I'm always more confident when a real guitar player is on stage with me.
Yeah, I hear you.
Cover my mistakes, but I play drums, piano, harmonica a little bit.
Okay.
I tried to learn the banjo a few years ago, and I got maybe a couple songs down, but I don't think it's for me. I don't have the finger dexterity in that motion to get the rolls down right.
I hear you.
But that's probably about it. Piano is definitely my main instrument these days.
Aisha, if it helps, I can play the radio. Just throw that in there.
Listen.
Hey, we got to have that.
You, me, and Michael included.
I'm sitting here in studio and looking across at Justine, our producer, and she's just shaking her head. She's not even laughing at this point. She's just got this look on her face like, oh, boy. So let's talk a little bit about Running Home. Now, the title track, co-written by Matthew West and Jeff Pardo, both have been previous guests on Between the Grooves, both great guys, both very, very talented. How did you swing that?
I've written with Jeff a lot. He was one of the people, when you come and you're being courted by record labels or however you want to say it, they usually start putting you with their producers before they make any decisions because they want to see what you're capable of. They've heard the songs that you've written by yourself or whatever, but they want to know what can you do with some of our writers. And I think it's like a risk-free way to see if a good song does come along and they want to just grab it up. So Jeff was one of those writers that I was put with back 4 or 5 years ago, and we just struck a great friendship, wrote some great songs together back then, one of which was on the first record called Stained Glass Window. That was a great write that we had. And so when I was writing this record, I just loved a lot of the sonics that he's been working on lately. I love a lot of the Ann Wilson stuff. I love some other things he's done that it's the real instruments that are coming back into music.
Yes.
Less programming, more live players. And that's my style. I love that. And so I reached out and I was like, hey, Jeff, I would love to write for this new record. He's like, yeah, man, all day long. And last summer, I became friends with Matthew I met him at a festival for the first time. And then I saw him again in the summer. And we just he gave me his number. We talked a little bit. And then I reached out and I was like, hey, got some song ideas. I would love to write with you. He's like, yeah, man, let's get it done. So he and Jeff have a great relationship. They've written a lot together. And so it just felt natural to I was like, hey, Jeff, I'm talking to Matthew. Hey, Matthew, I've been talking to Jeff. Like, what if we all three? And so we just hopped in the room together and started writing. And we wrote a song earlier last year called Thank God for Sunday Morning that we put out to radio. And I just loved that song. And so we kept writing together. And then a few months later, we wrote Running Home.
Nice. And it's a great project, great songs on it. And can you talk to us a little bit about The Lows? I want to know the story behind that song.
We've added that song. I mean, it has not officially been released to radio, but we've added it anyways, just because it's a great song.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
the problem I'm going to have is when it actually does get released to radio. It's like, well, everybody's already heard it, right? But that's okay. It is a great song.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that song. I mentioned earlier, I really wanted to be transparent on this record and address some things that I struggle with, and worry, anxiety is definitely on that list.
Sure.
And so I wanted to write a song, but I didn't want to just write a downer of a song. I wanted it to still encourage people, and I love music so much. I love the way music makes you feel, and the groove and the vibe of it. So that was important to me. So we started, how can we communicate that everything's going to be okay while also touching people in some of their low spots, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
Just, but also have this vibe of a song that they want to listen to over and over again, whether they're up or they're down, and that it just kind of came out that way. We started writing it, and it definitely changed a lot as we went. We had several versions of it. There's me and a writer named Chris Stevens, who's just awesome.
Hey, Chris!
Yeah,
I like to call him the hit maker.
Oh, he really is. It's magical hearing him. It's one of the only times that I don't feel the need to get on the keyboard. I love playing the keys and stuff, but he's such a player that we were just in there, and I was like, I'll just work on the lyrics, man. You're just vibing so good on that keyboard right now, But it was so fun, and so we just started talking about real life and talking to somebody that's been down and hard times. Yeah, you got them, living ain't been easy, and what that looks like for them. And then just trying to find a way that isn't so cliche or so oversaid of like, it's going to be okay. And I think that, that's where the storm analogy came from. And it's storms pass, and this is going to pass too. And even if it feels awful at the time, nothing really lasts forever. And, you're going to get past it. You're going to see it. And in the meantime, just kind of bob your head along to this song, and maybe it'll make you feel a little better,
Michael, one of the perks that we get in radio is very often we get an advanced look at an album before it's actually released. So before anybody else has heard it, we get to listen. And so we got an advanced look at your Running Home album. And obviously, and the interesting thing is I can see how many listens each track has had. So the most listens is, of course, Running Home, which is the title track. The second most is The Lows.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah. So
yeah.
So obviously other people like it as well.
Yeah, that's encouraging to hear.
Yeah, so there you go. Well, listen, Michael, thank you so much for hanging with us. Pleasure speaking with you. It was great to run into you last summer, and hopefully we run into each other again and get a chance to chat.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you so much for having me on. This is always a good time.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, eh?
Bless you, man.
God bless y'all.
Take care. What a great conversation with Michael Cochren from Cochren and Company. One of the things I thought was really interesting in that conversation was how he's learned and adapted during COVID, during the pandemic. And he talked about scaling back, and it kind of, made me think about, everybody really should be always thinking about that rainy day. We're talking about now, we're possibly in a recession. And so are you scaling back on your spending? Are you putting money away from a rainy day? It's like the whole Dave Ramsey thing, right? That's what he preaches about all the time. And I think that's all, really, really good advice that people could take but should be doing on a regular basis in the good times and the bad times.
Absolutely. And it just reminds me of a conversation. Being Goatee alum myself, having a conversation with the president of Goatee, and Joey Elwood, and he sat me down not long after I signed with Goatee, And he was like, Aisha, is there a plan in place for after this is finished? Because this does not last forever. You know, it's only for a season. So conversations like that are extremely helpful and extremely important. So I'm hoping and I'm thinking he probably has had that same conversation with Joey, and it has served him.
Did it serve you?
Absolutely.
Like, was your plan get married to a general contractor and have kids and become a music pastor?
That was God's plan. Hey, the Bible says, "Forget not his benefits," right? So there have definitely been benefits with being in relationship with Jesus, and he has provided every single step of the way. And we've definitely been able to take a lot of that advice and use it, and it has served us as well. So I'm grateful for those kinds of conversations.
Yeah, great to have a plan, but understand it is a plan because it may not go according to the way you think it's going to go. But to having that plan in place so that at least you can look in the future and know that everything will be okay. And part of that is trusting in God, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So for more on Cochren and Company, check out his website at cochrenmusic.com and be sure to look out for his record dropping this Friday.
Yeah, all right. Good stuff. Yeah. Now, before we go, some quick artist advice from Tommy Walker.
I'm going to kind of do two answers, but keep asking yourself, am I doing this for my glory or for God's glory? And then my other bit of advice is keep going and don't stop just because you're not as popular as you used to be. If you can bless one person, if you can encourage one believer, if you can be on the worship team, like people forget, like when you go to church, you just going to church and being there and being a worshiper. It's encouraging. It's encouraging to the person next to you. It's encouraging to the leadership, Go and volunteer, and with whatever your art is, I just encourage you to keep going, because the process of doing it is such a healing part of life instead of just letting go and giving up.
I think the first part where he says, my glory or God's glory, I think that speaks volume right there. I remember someone posting recently about when you're posting on social media, are you posting for your glory or God's glory? And it kind of makes you think back, because I'm scrolling on Facebook, and I know there's this one artist, I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but there's this one artist that is always posting something about, great Sunday service or something, but it's a picture of them. Right? And, isn't God good? And, blah, blah, blah. And whatever the post is, it's always a picture of them,
Wow.
Like they're so... Self-absorbed, yeah. And I'm not, pointing the fingers because, it's nice to post a picture of yourself once in a while if you've got some decent pics, which I don't. So I just rehash some of the old ones. But, giving God glory in all things, not your own glory. And then the fact where he talks about keep going and just keep plugging away. Like Tommy Walker, you might not know the name now, but 30 years ago, he wrote songs that we still sing in church to this day. So he knows what he's talking about, and obviously he's not looking for the glory for himself because he's just plugging away doing what he does, and he still, tours and writes and everything else, but he's just not as popular perhaps as we may think he should be or that he used to be. Right.
Gosh, it has been so great, but it is time to go.
What was that? That was you trying to cry?
You know
Pretending
what? Sometimes
to
cry. I'll call my mom, and if she doesn't answer, I'll get her voicemail and I'll leave a message, and I'm going, wah, Mom, wah.
Must drive her nuts.
Yeah. So it's time to go. I'm sad. Wah.
Okay, I understand. Hey, don't forget we are on Instagram, so give us a follow. You can see everything that's going on behind the scenes with Between the Grooves. And we're on Twitter and Facebook as well. Thanks for tuning in, and look forward to chatting again next week.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks for listening to Faith Strong Today's Between the Grooves podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider sharing it with your friends, rating our podcast, or giving us some love on your socials to your amazing friends and followers will only help us reach more people. We'd also love to hear from you and share your feedback in an upcoming episode. Send your video or written message to Aisha and James on Facebook and Twitter @Between Grooves, or email us anytime, hello@faithstrongtoday.com.